All right, well, welcome back to Photo Tips, and today we're going to talk about HSL adjustments, which stand for hue, saturation, and luminance. Now, I know we've talked about this in past videos, but I really want to dive into it today and give it a little bit more time. And we have Nala here that's decided to come up on the table and is going to help us out. I'm going to move her back to the couch because I don't like her messing up my expensive computer, as I'm sure you don't want your pets messing it up either. And let's go ahead and get started here with the video. So I'll go ahead and show you this image, and this is an image from the recent video we just did this week, the on-location shot from Amicalola Falls. But this is, a pretty decent image. I love how we drag the shutter out for several seconds to get that water falling down. But this was taken near the end of fall, so there's not a whole lot of color, at least apparently, but we're going to fool around with it, and that HSL adjustment is going to help us out quite a bit. But before I get to that, let's get back to the image, and I actually want to do a crop, because every image is not just one particular thing we typically need to do to it. So I'm thinking some of this over here is not helping me out all that much, so I think I'm going to go ahead in here, and I'll leave that tree in there just so we don't chop that off. And I might come in a little bit over here as well. So let's go ahead and start with that. I will say we did actually adjust the exposure already a little bit, because what happens, this is a side note, when you have really long exposures, your camera's meter sometimes gets fooled, and out in the field it can be kind of hard to judge the histogram and the LCD. So I've already brought it down a little bit there. And bring it back down to about 0.95 there, almost a stop that we overexposed. But, a good thing about RAW files is we can correct that. And I think what we're going to do, I might increase my contrast a little bit. And let's see, maybe bring down the highlights a little bit, make it a little bit of a softer image. And I think actually I'm going to crop in a little bit more there. See, about right there. Well, actually, you know what, maybe a little bit more. I promise we're getting to HSL here in a minute. Okay, so here we go. So we're getting some good results there. I think I'm going to, before I get there, I'm going to really want to draw my attention to this right here. That's my biggest thing. And you think, what are these having to do with HSL? Don't forget the other adjustments. Focusing our eye on what is important is not just about configuring the color. It's about changing the exposure in certain areas and stuff like that. So, okay, so that's all I'm going to do with that right now. Let me go to HSL, and this is Adobe Camera Raw. There's a similar setup here in Adobe Lightroom, if you're familiar with them. But I'll kind of show you what this does. Hue, and you see here there's all the different colors, red, orange, yellow, green, aqua, blue, purple, magenta. We can actually change what, for example, we're going to do with the oranges in this case. We can change what the orange actually looks like. We can make the orange more red, or we can make it more yellow. Now, I'm not really too keen on that. So let's go ahead and slide this back down. There's not a whole lot of orange, so what I want to do, because later in the year, I think the reds really help us a lot more this time of year, so I want to emphasize the reds. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, make those oranges more red. And I think as well, you see these blues right here? I want to make it a little bit more later in the season. And to me, it's not quite as aqua, it's more purple. Because you can see here, I can make it super aqua, or I can make it really purple here if I start changing my hue here of the blue, because obviously the blue, there's a little bit in the water. Now, we don't want to overdo this, but I think I'm going to say, ooh, about right there. As you can see, it does make quite a bit of difference as we adjust those sliders. Okay. And then one other thing, let me go ahead and move over to luminance. And you see the same colors here, but the way luminance works, it actually makes a particular color, whether it's red or blue or whatever, darker or brighter, and we can adjust these individually. We don't have to rely on just editing everything all at once. So I'm going to actually go ahead and in this blue right here, and I think, I don't know, I might go ahead and make it pop out a little bit more just to give a little more emphasis. But as you can see, we could dull it if we wanted to do that. Actually, that doesn't look all that bad, but I think I'm going to make it pop just a little bit more, not too much. In fact, I wasn't really going to fool around with this much. I wanted to show you kind of how it would work. We can kind of do the reds here. You notice a little bit of change down here. There's not that much. I'm just trying to think of orange. Yeah, I know we can make the orange brighter. But again, this is a softer image, so I don't want to do too much lightening. I don't think that really lends itself. So I'll go ahead and reset that one. Okay, and then let's go over to saturation. All right, so what I want to do, because this is a little bit of a duller image, I want to increase my saturation. But I don't want to do the whole image, because if I do the whole image, let's go over down here Now I'm back to editing the whole image. I can do my vibrance down here, which is actually better than adjusting saturation. Saturation is an older tool, not as sophisticated. Vibrance tends to do a better job. And you can see if I slide that up, I mean, I'm getting, let's say I want my oranges to be like that. Well, great, I did that, but look what happened to my waterfall. It looks hideous. So that's why we want to adjust these things individually. Let's go back to HSL and let's do that. Okay, so let's go to saturation. Let me start with my oranges. And I want to saturate those up pretty good. And I think I'm going to fool around with some reds. In this case, I'm going to be pretty aggressive here to try and make this a little bit, pop a little bit more for us. Okay, so as you can see, I was able to adjust the saturation over here because those are where those colors are, but not affect the waterfall so much. Although, you know what, now that I see that, I think I might want a little more blue. Not nearly to the same extent, but I do want a little bit more blue in there. Okay, we'll say something about like that. Okay, now I am getting pretty close to where I want in this image, but let's go back to what we were doing at the beginning, cropping, making a few little exposure adjustments. There's more that I need to do. I see right here, I like having this detail here on the sides of the waterfalls, but it's just too prominent. It's a little bit too bright for me. So let's go ahead and bring ourselves an adjustment brush, and let's see. I'm going to reset this because as normal it remembers the last thing I did. And let's say, I'm going to bring the exposure down maybe about half a stop. We'll start with that. Maybe increase the contrast a little bit. And I think I want to make it a little bit more warmer so it doesn't clash as much as with this cooler waterfall. So a little bit more yellow. That won't do too much, but this is just a start. And you can see here the center circle is where the filter is in full effect, and the dotted line is where it starts to taper off. That's our feather. So let's go in here and let us start kind of painting our way about here. Let's make sure that we get it even on all the sides. And we can adjust as we go along, but I want us to have a baseline that we can start with here. Okay. And let's grab a little bit over here. You want to be careful. I don't want to make this look unnatural. So when you get a smaller brush, you got to be careful because it doesn't look as natural with the smaller brush as it does with the larger one, I find. And of course, you can get various styluses and tablets that you can attach to your computer that make this a little bit easier. We're just using the trackpad on the laptop, which these days, they're actually pretty good. Okay, so, I think half a stop is probably a bit too much. Let's back off now that we've painted this in. Okay. Now let's go to about a third of a stop, minus 0.3. And let's see, what will happen if I increase my contrast there a little bit. And I think I want to make this, take the blacks out a little bit more, which will make the shadows a little bit darker. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's kind of fool around with clarity a little bit. Just trying to think if I want to make this disappear, because you can see if I do clarity like that, it's going to make it super contrasty. But let's go ahead and fade it out just a little bit there. Okay. Actually, now that I've done that, I'm not sure I want to have that much exposure decrease. Okay, and then I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little bit right here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, and let's take a look at it. Let's do a couple more things. I'm going to remove chromatic abbreviations. That's aberrations, I should say. That is where we can get some weird colors in high contrast areas. And we'll sharpen it up a little bit here. All right, so yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that image right there. I'm going to go ahead and maybe, I know I said I didn't want to do too much of the entire image, but I'm going to go ahead and increase my vibrance just a little bit there. And I'm going to say we're done. So let's go ahead and open this up in Photoshop, and as normal, I'll go ahead and do a little bit of a border for you so you can see. And I think this has made a huge difference compared to where we started. We really brought out some color that was kind of hiding there, was a little bit lurking, and we made that waterfall kind of pop as well. And that's what those HSL adjustments really do. It allows you to edit those individual colors, how they appear in the hue, and then how saturated they are and how bright they are. HSL, hue, saturation, and luminance. So really helpful there. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to save this out so we can kind of compare where we started and where we have come. So I'll go ahead and say that's going to be after. Go ahead and save that out. And let's compare here. So before, which was this right here, which was kind of a dull image. I mean, it had some potential, but again, very, very dull. And then that's where we ended up. We actually really increased that saturation individually, and we got the final image there. So that is the image. I'll leave it up there for a second for you to contemplate, but that's something I'm really pleased with and I think has helped out a lot. So that is today's photo tips on HSL adjustments. And on behalf of Nala and I think Nala took off there, but we do appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.